Good morning, all of you. We will continue with the history chapter, World During Modern Age. Now, day one, when we started the chapter, we did a basic introduction of the chapter. We also had a look at what history is, into how many periods it is divided, and which period we'll be doing this year. So, who will tell me which period we will do this year?
The modern
All right, modern
modern period.
period. Okay, so we'll do modern period this year, and then we also had a look at the various sources of information that we have about the modern period. So we studied about the primary and the secondary sources, and under that we had a look at some of the things that come under this, like books and government documents and newspapers, magazines and all. So we had a look till there, and now today we will continue from there, and so we will start with an overview of the 18th century. Page number 6, an overview of the 18th century. Alright, so now in this book we begin the history of modern India from the 18th century. Now, though the modern period in Europe, it began, we have already done that, it began in Europe in the 15th and 16th century, but India at that time was a British colony, means we were under the political and economic domination control of the Britishers, and so under those conditions, modern period came in India much later. Okay, so we will start this book from the 18th century, because the changes, the characteristic changes which are said to be associated with the modern period, they are said to have begun during this period in India. Those changes, the characteristic things, the characteristic features of modern period, they began in Europe first, but they began in India during this period only, like during the 18th century. Now these changes, they started to come, they first began in other parts of the world, and then they came to us in conditions which were not our choice. At that time we were under the control of the Britishers, so the conditions when this and we were under the control of the Britishers, and before that, after the Mughal period, the greater Mughals, the political condition in India was quite chaotic, because so many different kingdoms, they were fighting among themselves and all. So the political condition was not good, and then Britishers came, established their rule here, and so the the things which are characteristic of the modern period, they came to India in conditions which were not of a choice, means we did not choose to be under the domination of the Britishers. We do not choose to be a British colony, but it was enforced on us, and so India became a British colony, and these changes came to us during that period, during the conditions which were not of our choice. Now, but the life of the people in our country, now they had been greatly affected by the changes, by these changes which were brought about, and now some of the features of the modern era, they are industrialization. What is industrialization?
The building of industries.
All right, the setting up of industries, factories, all right, at a very fast pace, very fast pace, or very fast speed. Okay, so some of the features of the modern era: first, industrialization, then there was a great progress in technology, then there was urbanization. What is urbanization? Yes.
Turning rural areas into urban urban areas.
Okay, all right, so there was a growth of cities, and one more feature very characteristic of the 18th century is that during this time there was greater interaction among the nations of the world. Now, during the till the medieval time, there was not much interaction among the different nations of the world, but during this time the nations, they started to have, like, more discussions and talks among themselves. So these are few of the characteristic features of the modern time. Now, India during that time, 18th century, it was in a chaotic, means confusing, and the the political condition was not peaceful. Now, why? Because the Mughal Empire, which had held the country together for so long, it had become weak. And last year you have studied the Mughal Empire, and you know that India, under the great Mughals, the great Mughals, they were strong and able rulers and powerful rulers, and they were able to keep the country together. But once after Aurangzeb, when the lesser Mughals were here, so they were not so strong and such able rulers, and they were not able to keep the whole empire, the whole country together. And so what happened, different parts of the country, they began to declare their independence. Small kingdoms started to declare their independence and said that now we are not under the control of any empire or any other king. So they started to declare their independence among different people. And the problem was that now most of these kingdoms, they were most of the time fighting with each other. So why do you think that most of the time these small kingdoms which came up, independent kingdoms, they were fighting with each other? Do you have any idea why do you think they were fighting, so much fighting among each other? Yes, class? No idea? you know each wanted to increase their territory, their land and their resources. They wanted to show that they were more powerful. So they used to invade the other countries in order that they may win over it, and then their own kingdom will expand also, and they will get hold of the other kingdoms resources also. So these small independent kingdoms, they fought with each other for this purpose. And this unity, it led to the colonization of the British, of colonization of India by the British. Because if India had been one strong united country, then obviously it would have been very difficult for the Britishers to win over India or to colonize India. But because they were fighting among each other, and many times what happened, like if Britishers fought against one kingdom, so the other kingdom supported the Britishers. So there was so much, because of so much disunity, it became easier for the colonization, Indian colonization by the British. And so the economic and political progress that took place in Europe in the 15th and century, 16th century, it came much later to India. Why? Because we were a colony. We were not a free and independent nation at that time. We were a British colony. We were under the political and economic dominance and control of Britishers. That is why all that came to us much later. Now, before we turn to see that how India declined during this period, and how finally with the rise of nationalism, the people they came together and fought against the British rule, and again regained, had a recovery during this period. Now, before we study all about that, we shall here in this chapter study about some of the main trends, some of the main changes that took place in the world during that time, which brought in the modern age. And so many of these changes, they brought in the modern age, and this first began in Europe. So the first trend, the first thing that we will study in this context is Renaissance and its effect on the people of Europe. So what was the effect of Renaissance on the people of Europe? Now, Renaissance, it means rebirth or revival. So it means rebirth or revival of learning, and this began in Europe. And so when it started, it started with the revival of Greek and Roman learning. So Greek and Roman learning. But Renaissance, though it started in Italy and started with the revival of Greek and Roman learning, but then it spread to all parts of Europe. And so throughout Europe, it inspired people to think about themselves also. Now if we understand the condition of the people, the system of society, the setting up of society during that time, the system of government that was prevalent during those times. So monarchy was basically practiced in most of the places of the world during that time. What is monarchy? Yes, class 8. Anyone here? know about any other form of government, like monarchy is a form of government? Any other form of government you know of?
Democracy and panchayat.
Democracy, okay.
Dictatorship.
Okay, right, dictatorship. Who is this? Who is joined with this name Harris Gilbert? Yes, class, do you know? Who is this? One of your classmate who has joined with this name Harris Gilbert? Anyone knows who that is?
Ma'am, Annie Gilbert.
Who?
Ma'am, Annie.
Okay,
Ma'am, Annie Gilbert.
okay, all right. So, so now we are talking about like you told that we had monarchy, we have now we have democracy, then we have dictatorship, we also know about military rule. Now under leaving democracy, under all the other forms of government, people, they do not have much say in how they are ruled. And the kings and the dictators and the military commanders, they rule as they wish, and they do not rule according to the wishes of the people, and the people, they cannot say anything against the rulers, against the kings and the monarchs, because if anyone said anything against them, then what would happen? Obviously they will be executed, they will be killed. So no one could since here we are talking about monarchy, so if anyone raised their voices against the monarchical system, the system of governance that we had during that time, they could lose their lives. And people, they did not have any rights as such. When they did not have the right to express, the right to speech and expression, then obviously how could they have any other right? And so the people, they did not have rights. And now for the first time, under this renaissance, people were inspired, they were inspired to think about themselves also, and they started to question and reason and to challenge the customs and traditions and institutions which were already established, but those which were harmful for them. So till this time, they were simply going on doing what was already told to them, and how it had been from time immemorial. Like in India also, the caste system was prevalent, the system of sati, johar and all that, and it was prevalent, and people, and how the widows, they were treated in India. So it continued till the time the people raised their voices against it, till the time they realized that this is not fair to us, and we need to raise our voices, we need to protest against it. And so it happened in other parts of the world also. So during renaissance also, the people were inspired to think that, okay, this custom, this particular tradition, these institutions, like monarchy is also an institution, so this is not good for us, this is harmful for us. So the people, they started to think and reason and to challenge all these established customs, traditions, institutions which were not for their benefit. Then scientific temper, science, technology and all also developed during renaissance, and this led to new inventions and also the discovery of new lands. Now this movement, this renaissance movement, it also made the people conscious, aware of their rights, and they now began to realize, also during the modern period, we have the printing press established, and and then many philosophers, reformers, they also came up, and now their views, their thoughts, their ideas could be printed, and they could be spread through a larger number of people. And so the people during this time, they were made conscious of the rights, that they also have rights. And this when they realize that they as humans, they as individuals also have certain rights, so it gave them the confidence to raise their voice against the corrupt practices and the authority which the medieval church imposed on them. Now we are talking about Europe. So what happened, the church during that time, it was very strong, and it was not just a religious body. it had control over the politics also and over every aspect of governance. And during that time, when people they started to realize that this is not fair, and they were against many of the rituals of the then Roman Catholic Church, and so the people they raised their voices against the corrupt practices and the authority of the medieval church. And this movement against the church, that is referred to as the Protestant Reformation movement, means to bring about reforms in the church. Now, during this period, we also saw a growth of trade and commerce, and this growth of trade and commerce, it also helped in the big in the emergence, in the coming up of new towns and cities. And so cities like Milan, Florence, Rome, Venice, London, Paris, etc., they were all set up either on the coastal areas, because coastal areas, they were connected with the sea routes, and so trade was easy. And then, or on both sides of the land routes, like if a particular land route was used for trade, so on both the sides of the land routes, cities or towns, they came up. Now, the rich merchant class, and with this flourishing trade, a new class of people emerged, a new social group emerged. Now, before this, we had basically two classes, like the upper aristocratic class, the nobility, the ruling class, and the producing class, the people who produced for them, who worked for them, who labored for them. Now, during this period, with the emergence and the expansion of trade, a new class emerged, which was called as the middle class. And now this class, it was neither the high aristocratic class, nor it was the producing or the labor class, and this became the middle class. So middle class comprised of the merchants and traders, the big businessmen, and later on it was joined by the educated section also, like the doctors, lawyers, teachers, and other professional classes. So they also came and joined the middle class. Now, this middle class, they not only had increased wealth with them, but also knowledge, because the educated society, it was also a part of the middle class. And even with this expansion of trade, and also the middle classes, they had so much money also. And so the middle class, they became the most influential section of the society. And so they supported those rulers who worked for them, or who protected them, and who made laws for their benefit, like tariff laws and all that. And even those who helped made such laws which were beneficial for the growth and expansion of trade. So they supported those rulers, and the rulers in turn worked for them and protected the middle classes. Now, during this time, new states which were free from feudal control were formed. Now, in India, we had the zamindari system. Under zamindari system, what happened? These zamindars, they had these huge plots of land to them, which were given to them by the kings and all. And then they were not able to cultivate it, maintain it on their own. So they hired men, or they rented out their land to those farmers who did not have lands on their own, or those who had very small plots of land, and even to landless laborers and small peasants, poor peasants and all. So they worked on their lands. And then then these landlords, they ill-treated them, they exploited them, and now this not only happened here in India, but elsewhere in the other parts of the world also. So like in Europe, we had the feudal system. Now in that also, what happened, like if the king was happy with what you did, and so the king, they gave these huge lands to people. And like I said, so the same thing happened there also, that now they needed people to work on their fields and in their huge houses. So they rented out their land, and these poor farmers and artisans and landless laborers, they worked on their lands. And now what happened, they did not only have to work on their land, they had to work in their houses also, because they were bound to them. Because like if they did not wanted to do anything, then they will take away their land which they had rented to them. And then in addition to that, they had to pay them dues also. Then if they were ever needed, then they had to fight for their feudal lords also. And so Now this system, this was very exploitative to the lower section of the society, for the poor farmers and the landless laborers. And so during this time, new states were formed, new countries were formed, which were free from the feudal control. And there was a new atmosphere of learning and education with the coming up of new schools and colleges. Now all the above developments and all the above and the other developments also, in addition to all those other, also took place during medieval period. And they, you know, gradually, slowly, they laid the foundation of the modern period. And which was marked and marked the onset of new age. So it marked the dawn. All these things, these trends which took place, you know, they marked the dawn or the coming up of a new age. And now Renaissance, it was followed by, after this we had, you know, some revolutions like American Revolution, and in France we had the French Revolution, and we also had later on the Industrial Revolution in England. So all these are also characteristic features of the modern era. Okay, so we move on to the Industrial Revolution now. Have you understood till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All
Yes,
right.
yes,
yes,
Now,
ma'am.
what do you understand by the term Industrial Revolution? I asked in the beginning also. Again, Industrial Revolution. Yes, come on. What do you understand by Industrial Revolution?
Ma'am, it maybe refers to development of industries.
All right, development of industries, the setting up of factories, industries at a very fast pace, and you know, expansion of in an improvement in technology. So that was all a characteristic feature of the industrial period. Now, you know, in the medieval period, this is the modern period, industrial revolution, modern period. But in the medieval period, you know, people, they had the domestic system of production. Means production was carried on in the home units, the domestic units of the people. And so craftsmen and artisans, you know, they produced everything by their hands in their own homes. And so every village, it would have their own carpenter, own potter, weaver, blacksmith, etc., so that they can fulfill the needs of the people. And so what we can say, that during the medieval time, the village economy, it was self sufficient. All right. And so the people, they were not dependent on the outside market for their needs, and whatever was produced in the village, it was good enough to satisfy the needs of the people. uh, but you know, with time, the demand for other goods also increased. And now these local handmade goods, now they were not able to satisfy the needs of the people anymore. And now, as a result, what happened, the raw materials, now you are required to produce more and more things also, new things also, and more number also. So now the raw materials which were available in the villages, you know, they were not adequate, they were not sufficient, they were not enough to increase production. And so a new method of production, it was adopted, which was known as the factory system. Now under this system, what happened, rich people with lots of money, they set up factories, and they you know, invested their money to buy raw materials. And also they also, you know, had employed so many workers and artisans to work with them. And they set up these new costly machines in their factories also. And so in this way, you know, the domestic system, it was taken up, or it was replaced by the factory system. Now in the domestic system, like if we take for example the textile industry or the textile production, then you know, so many things are required in that. You know, raw cotton is required, then you buy the raw cotton. Now from that raw cotton, yarn has to be spun, means thread has to be made. So you know, you require spinners. Obviously one household would not be enough, so you will require many households to spun for you. Then now that thread will go to the weavers. And then, you know, or first, you know, cotton when cotton comes, then it had to be sorted according to quality. Some is good quality, some is not. So first it had to be sorted according to quality, then it had to be spun into thread, and then it had to be woven into cloth. Then that cloth had to be maybe colored into some color, and then it has to be finished and then sold. Now all these steps of production, so many people at each step were required to work, and so throughout the village the work was spread throughout the village. And so it was difficult even for the merchant to supervise everything, because it was spread throughout the village. But now under the factory system, what happened, all these processes of production were brought under one roof. So the merchant, he could easily supervise, he could keep a check on the quality and on the labor also. And then one more thing, goods which were produced in hands, they require more time, more labor also, and they were even few in number. So very soon the goods which were made by hand, they were outnumbered by the goods which were made by machine. Now machine, obviously it will work faster, in less time it will be able to produce much more. And so goods which were produced by hand in small numbers, they were soon outnumbered by the goods, machine made goods, which were manufactured at a very fast speed or a very fast pace. Now this new technique of production, this factory production, now this brought about drastic, far reaching, huge changes in the economy, some good and obviously some not very good. Now this is referred to as a industrial revolution. So obviously it is not all good, but obviously there was some negative thing also. Now you will study more about this in class 10. Now England was the first country where industrial revolution took place, and by 1750 there were many new inventions in England, and this was because of the result of this scientific temper, the growth of science and research, which was inspired by the Renaissance. And since we were talking about the textile industry, so the spinning jenny was invented by James Hargreaves, water frame invented by Arkwright, the power loom by Cartwright, and mule by Crompton. Now there were some of the machines which brought about huge, tremendous, far-reaching changes and increased the production in the textile industry. Okay, so for today we will stop here. Have you all understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.